Madagascar. A vast island lies off Southeast Africa, drifting quietly in the Indian Ocean like a forgotten shard of time. From above, Madagascar looks like a world unto itself, in no hurry to rejoin the rest of Earth. Geologically, this land split from Africa about 180 million years ago. 90 million years later, it pulled away from the Indian subcontinent as well and began its long, solitary voyage. In that extended isolation, time did not disappear. Time simply moved slower, deeper, and out of step with the rest of the planet. That isolation produced a rare phenomenon in the history of evolution. Madagascar did not evolve faster than the world. It evolved offbeat. While other continents kept trading creatures, genes, and species, Madagascar learned to make do on its own. The result is a collection of life unlike anywhere else. Over 90% of the island's wildlife is described as endemic, meaning that once you leave Madagascar, you will not find them anywhere else on Earth. For that reason, this island is often known by another name. People call it Earth's eighth continent. More than 90% of the wildlife here exists nowhere else. They are not copies. They are the outcome of tens of millions of years of evolution in solitude. When a land is cut off from the rest of the world for too long, life begins to redefine itself. So the question becomes, just how different did that biological collection grow? This journey will move slowly, taking the time to understand the island's strangest wonders. Let's begin exploring together. Avenue of the Baobabs. The scene opens on a dirt road between Morondava and Beloni Tsiribihina in the Menabe region of western Madagascar. Giant trunks line both sides, swelling toward the sky as if the trees were growing upside down. Their roots look like arms reaching upward, while the trunk seems to sink into red earth. These are ancient baobabs, present long before humans ever arrived. Locals call them Renala or Reniala, meaning mother of the forest. Some individuals are estimated to be over 1,000 years old. Inside each trunk are vast hollow chambers. A baobab functions like a living water tank. Each trunk can hold up to roughly 32,000 liters of water, enough to fill a small swimming pool. That ability helps them survive the harsh, dry seasons of western Madagascar. Yet these survivors carry a quiet tragedy within them. The Avenue of the Baobabs is not an old-growth forest, it is closer to a graveyard. For millions of years, this area was once dense tropical forest that covered all of Manabe. Humans arrived in Madagascar less than 2,000 years ago. And within a few short centuries, the landscape was reshaped at its roots. The forest was cut for farmland. Fire became part of daily survival. Only the massive baobabs were left behind, not because of a conservation plan. They remained because the first communities saw something sacred in them. So these mothers of the forest still stand in a wide, emptied space. They exist like memory markers, tracing an ecosystem that has vanished. Today, the dominant trees here are Grandidier's baobabs. That species is considered threatened. In July 2007, the area received temporary protected status. It was a step toward recognition as a natural monument. Leaving the avenue behind, the journey pushes deeper into western Madagascar. Chiribihina River, a surmé de Carnimurdidamun. The river appears like a boundary that does not easily yield. In a few places, concrete bridges let vehicles glide across. It feels as if the modern world has managed to reach this far. But at many more remote crossings, there is no bridge at all. Instead, there are simple flat ferries, sturdy enough to carry an entire car. You drive onto a wooden platform that looks almost too fragile. Then you leave the rest to that small boat, trusting it to deliver you to the far bank. The open, treeless patches along the road are not always accidental. Deforestation in Madagascar is tied to long-running pressures of livelihood. Fire enters that story as a tool. Tavi is the local name for slash-and-burn cultivation. It is how many communities survive on nutrient-poor land. Tsingy de Bemaraham. A stone forest rises from the earth like a natural barricade. This is a strict nature reserve recognized in 1990. The entire area spans roughly 834 square kilometers. Limestone has been torn into countless sharp points. Some pillars reach 70 meters high. From a distance, the landscape looks like the ground cracked open and revealed its teeth. The name Tsingy is often understood as the place where you cannot walk barefoot. That explanation becomes obvious the moment you step in. The rock is sharp enough to cut skin from the lightest contact. Space opens into a labyrinth that runs to the horizon. Standing at the edge, your sense of scale begins to collapse. You become unmistakably small. Here, GPS is nearly useless. The only direction that matters is up. Crossing the Tsingy requires a different kind of faith. A safety harness is clipped in tight. Tensioned rope bridges link stone towers together. They sway gently over open air. Below lies a terrain carved by water and time. For generations, local communities avoided this place. It felt too dangerous and too haunted. Only recently have these fragile pathways allowed people to enter. UNESCO describes it as a forest of limestone needles. Below the rock lies the winding gorge of the Manambola River. Around it is an interlacing of forest, lakes, and mangroves. Many rare birds and lemurs find refuge here. But the south of Madagascar is not strange only because of its scenery. What lives here challenges explanation even more. Strangest National Park. This place begins with granite peaks tearing the sky. Those steep walls form some of Madagascar's most demanding terrain. They have stood here since before continents had names. The air is thin and sharp. Sound echoes as if it comes from the world's earliest hours. But when you leave the high rock faces and slide into lower valleys, the landscape softens. Green hills stretch to the horizon. They roll gently toward distant peaks. In those calm clearings, Madagascar's signature residents appear. Ring-tailed lemurs sun themselves on stones worn smooth. Those rocks have been polished by generations. Black and white tails catch the morning light like living flags. When Sifaka must cross open ground, evolution shows its most graceful compromise. Their legs were made for leaping between trees. So when they have to travel on the ground, they hop sideways. The jumps are neat and balanced, like nature's own ballet. But Sifaka are not the only personalities in the lemur kingdom. Bamboo lemurs move with restless, constant unease. It is as if they worry about something only they can sense. By contrast, red-ruffed lemurs stretch out along branches. They let their bodies slacken like living velvet cushions. They bask in patches of sun with rare serenity. As if they learned life's secret early. And then there is the Indri, the largest living lemur. Its round eyes give it a permanent look of astonishment. An expression as if it has just witnessed something beyond belief. All of these species carry traces of roughly 60 million years of isolated evolution. More than 100 lemur species once existed. None appeared anywhere else on Earth. Until humans set foot on the island only a little over 1,000 years ago. In the past, some lemurs were enormous, as large as gorillas. They ruled these highlands before fading into legend. Isalo National Park. This park lies in the south of Madagascar. Here, the landscape changes abruptly. Sandstone formations rise like ancient castles. Wind and water sculpted them into shapes too perfect to feel accidental. At the park's center is the Fenêtre de l'Isalo, a natural window cut through stone. Through it, Madagascar's vastness opens up. You are looking through rock that once lay beneath ancient seas. Now it has become a gateway into open space. When night falls, another world begins. The Eye appears, a lemur that looks unusual at first glance. Large eyes, an oddly elongated middle finger. And a way of hunting unlike any other primate. It taps lightly on wood and listens for the reply. When it detects a hollow space, it uses that long finger to pull grubs out. It is a sophisticated, efficient kind of sound-based hunting. At the same time, the true masters of this evolutionary playground emerge. Chameleons. Many conservation education sources note that nearly half of the world's chameleon species live here. Their eyes can move independently, watching two directions at once. Their long tongue fires out in a blink, too fast for the human eye to follow. Every motion is optimized for patience and pinpoint accuracy. And somewhere in the darkness, the island's top land predator is moving. The fossa. It is Madagascar's largest terrestrial predator. A long body, a quiet step, a passing shadow is enough to hush the forest. In the island's ecosystem, its role cannot be replaced. It helps keep a fragile balance from collapsing. These strange creatures do not exist by accident. They are the direct result of prolonged isolation. That same isolation creates the land's singular difference. But to see how humans fit into this ancient equation, you must leave the wild parks behind and follow the roads north. Red earth ribbons twist like silk through amber hills and gold-stained valleys. These roads are not drawn straight. They cling to the terrain, rising and falling with the breath of the highlands. As you approach more populated valleys, rice fields appear on the slopes. Terrace after terrace, like nature's own staircase. They form orderly geometric patches that stretch along the incline. Their colors change with the seasons. Emerald when the rice is young and amber at harvest. Antananarivo, Debrina Warsha Suri, their Wordians. The island's center where the roads finally converge. The capital is built across a series of hills like a vast ancient amphitheater. More than 2 million people live here. That is in a country of roughly 26 million. In origin, Madagascar's people represent a rare blending of two worlds. Their ancestors carry Austronesian traces from the ocean and African roots from the nearby continent. So Madagascar is an African island, yet it echoes the open sea. Those traces remain in language, in architecture, and in the everyday rhythm of life. Even though Madagascar is often ranked among the world's poorest countries, this highland heart carries a resilience that is hard to deny. High above, the Rova looks down over the city. This royal palace complex on Analamanga Hill was once a symbol of sovereign power. But on the night of November 6, 1995, a major fire broke out. Flames destroyed much of the Rova's historic structure. What remained were stone walls and ash, and the restoration that followed stretched over many years. In daily life here, the bond with ancestors does not end with death. It continues through a ceremony called Famadihana, often translated as turning of the bones. Roughly every 5 to 7 years, depending on the family and the region, the tomb is reopened. The remains are gently wrapped in fresh cloth. People dance to music as a way to welcome ancestors back into the circle of the living. About 60 kilometers from the capital, the highlands reveal another quiet contradiction. Lake Mantasoa sits at roughly 1,400 meters above sea level. In its fresh, rain-fed waters, sturgeon are raised from imported stock. It produces Africa's first and only caviar, a royal delicacy born from conditions no one expects. Farther out, highland villages nestle into the folds of hills. In places like Amber Delendamy, life moves to the rhythm of rice and seasons. Every meter of arable land is shaped with care. Terrace joins terrace following the hill's natural curve. Here, survival depends on understanding nature precisely. Knowing when to plant and knowing when to harvest. Across land that can look barren, life still pushes through. A single dirt road leads into Andrahibe village. It is the thin thread connecting the community to the outside world. Life here has changed very little over centuries. People still depend on rain, soil, and time. At Aliveri, steam erupts from the ground. It is where underground water meets volcanic heat. Minerals stain the earth in unexpected colors. Across the grasslands, off-road vehicles cut through golden hills. They offer another way to feel the highland vastness. Over time, Madagascar's isolation has become part of its appeal. And deep in the volcanic heart of the highlands lies Tritriva, a lake that fills the crater of an ancient volcano. Its dark water reflects the sky as if holding secrets from when Earth was very young. In its own center, Madagascar does not tell a story of miracles. It tells a story of adaptation and of how people find their place on an island that has never been easy. Leaving the highlands and red earth behind, Madagascar changes tempo at the shoreline. Dry brown gives way to an expanding band of blue. The coast opens into another world, where reefs, deep bays, and small islands follow one after another. Sakalava Bay. Here, sea winds turn into a playground for windsurfers. They ride the same winds that once carried the first settlers to these shores. On the beach, tortoises move slowly. Their shells seem to carry time itself. Some living today can reach about 150 years. Dating back to before Madagascar became a French colony. Beneath clear water, colorful coral reefs appear. Structures built over centuries become home to fish that seem to dance. Across these jade waters, islands appear like precious stones. Nosy Bay rises from the sea like a green crown. Nosy Tanakli curves into a perfect crescent that hardly looks real. Then Antigil Bay appears near the Massawa Peninsula. This bay is recorded as one of the places to observe humpback whales. Each year they arrive from June to October, with a peak from July into early September. Humpback whales travel nearly 8,000 kilometers from Antarctica to Madagascar. They come to these warm waters to give birth. Afterward, they continue northwest along migration routes older than memory. Their songs travel under the surface, spreading across the Indian Ocean. They lead toward other volcanic islands rising from the deep. Crossing into Comoros waters, the whales enter a different world. The ocean is familiar, but the land is the geological opposite of Madagascar. Comoros is a volcanic island chain near Madagascar, like the next chapter of the same regional story. If Madagascar spent nearly 90 million years perfecting isolation and stillness, Comoros builds wonder through constant movement. Through volcanic fire that refuses to sleep. On the beaches of Chomoni, black volcanic sand stretches beside turquoise water. Each grain is a fragment of lava erupted only centuries ago. You are walking on ground that was once molten rock. Now it is a shoreline where ancient whales and newborn islands meet. At Dragon's Back, rock spines thrust into clear water. They resemble the fossilized backbone of a giant sea creature. Nearby on Anjouan, a village sits below a stone fortress. The fortress perches on volcanic rock facing the ocean. It feels like it guards secrets the island is still too young to tell. The plateaus of Dui and Usio rise like huge tables covered in green. Grass hides the slopes, and with them, the fire that created them. From afar, these plateaus look as if they float over the sea. At Lac Salé, an emerald lake sits close to the turquoise ocean. Two shades of paradise, separated by a narrow strip of black sand. As if the earth could not choose between fresh water and salt, and simply kept both. But the true power of the archipelago reveals itself in the heart of Grande Comore. Mount Karthala, the largest volcano in the chain. It rises to about 2,361 meters above sea level. At the summit lies a massive caldera, roughly 3 kilometers by 4 kilometers. A vast hollow where eruption history is held in stone. Karthala is not a volcano that has fallen asleep. It is still active. The most recent eruption was recorded in January 2007. Since the 19th century, it has erupted more than 20 times. In some periods, especially in the 1970s, its activity caused significant damage to nearby communities. Ash coats the slopes. The sky shifts color. The air grows heavy. Standing before Karthala, your sense of time changes. It is no longer a long wait. It becomes the immediate presence of energy. And the movement beneath a thin crust. In December 1952, in Comoros waters, a creature thought lost since the age of dinosaurs was recorded. The coelacanth, a fish often called a living fossil. That discovery makes the ocean feel like an archive. A place where time does not always follow familiar order. Madagascar and Comoros are not opposites. They complete one another. This journey began when a piece of Africa quietly broke away and drifted into isolation for tens of millions of years. We crossed kingdoms of strange primates where movement looked more like dance than survival. We passed through stone forests sharp as blades, honed by water and time. We moved through villages whose rhythms seemed untouched by the modern calendar. It has been a journey across many landscapes, yet it is one single story. A story of Earth testing its own possibilities at the edge of time. In Madagascar, prolonged isolation allowed life to become almost unimaginable. Everything evolved slowly, delicately, and strangely. And on these young volcanic islands nearby, the story is only beginning. See you again on another land and in another journey just as unforgettable.